2. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a nice riff, actually. I'm digging it.
Yeah,
So we're episode 2 now. Which camera are we at? Are we at this one? Or are we at this one? Which one are we at? We're at this one. So episode 2, and we've got one and only Mr. Shawn Thompson on the show today. Episode number 2 of the Songwriters Couch. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. And we'll
Cheers,
usually
brother.
start with a little drink here to loosen our morals up as we get started. So how about I guess we give a little introduction. Big news for the podcast. We've got an official sponsor that in the next couple of weeks will be joining us, and we'll probably have them on the show too, just to speak about it, and that should be fun. And there's some new exciting maybe drinks to be had on future episodes, so you'll have to come back again, Shawn, at some point. So we'll be announcing that soon. But why don't we start out with who you are, what you do, and how you and I met. How about that? Because I don't remember.
I don't either, so that's going to be fun to explain. Well, my name is Shawn Thompson. I go by Shawn T, stage name, I guess. I've been an active musician for 20 plus years now. I'm a singer-songwriter. I was in a band for 13 years. I've been solo now for about 10 years. As far as how we met, I think I met you at open mic at Boulder Cafe.
That is, I think that's where I meet a lot of people at open mics.
Yeah.
I think that they're like an awesome place, especially for musicians. If you're new musicians and you're looking for a band, go out to an open mic. You could find a lot of good musicians out there, and a lot of bad ones too.
Absolutely.
If we're being honest,
No,
right?
we wouldn't call them
Well,
bad.
not bad.
We wouldn't call them bad.
Challenging
Challenging music.
No, but
They're just people doing their thing.
some different stuff. I always like open mics because it's like, especially new people like fresh out of college or like they're brand new to playing music and they get up there the first time and they're super nervous and they've been practicing in their little room for years and years and years, waiting for the moment when they're finally going to go out there and make their big debut of their song. And what's kind of wonderful and terrible about it is that they learn pretty quickly that playing in your room to yourself is a little different than being on stage and having to entertain people and making people get on your side. But it's a great place to see people's like real personalities kind of come out.
Yeah.
So I love them. So tip for anyone that's up and starting musician, go out to those open mics and meet some other musicians. So we've upgraded our audio too from the last time, Shawn, since the episode 1. We've gotten some shock things on here to prevent that, and some windscreen because we had some pops on there. So hopefully everything sounds just a little bit better today.
I sound a lot better than the last time I wasn't on here.
That's right. That's right. So let me ask you this: what was that riff you were playing there?
So that riff is it's a riff from Beautiful Things. It's a title track of my one and only EP that I professionally recorded.
What's the name of that? Is that out in distribution?
It is. It's in distribution. If you count sitting, like 100 copies of it sitting in my car. I haven't put it on any streaming platforms yet, but I recorded that back 2017 at Mockingbird Studios out in Byron, New York.
Wow, I think I've heard of Mockingbird, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
Byron, huh?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
It's actually just a big old farmhouse. They have a Mockingbird farm animal rescue as well. But I met them because I'm a massage therapist, and that was one of my clients.
That is true. I was going to ask you, in exchange for having you on the show, my back's a little tight. Maybe you can get in there, work out some knots for me.
Yeah.
Are you good with that?
With an elbow, yeah, I got this. Yeah, you just stand on swamp.
Excellent. So let me ask you this: what got you into music initially, like back in the day when you were just a wee little Shawn?
I'll tell you what. So when I was just a wee little Shawn, I used to sit in my bedroom. The earliest I remember, probably 7, 8 years old, listening to stuff on the radio, recording it on a cassette tape.
Cassettes.
Cassettes. stealing my siblings' cassettes and recording over their stuff. Put a little piece of tape over it so you can
Yeah.
ruin people's stuff. And I would just sit there and rewind and play, rewind and play, rewind and play, and just write down lyrics and sing all day long. It was just nonstop.
Were you playing like what kind of music back then? Because you're about my age, right? So you grew up in the '80s, right?
Yeah.
You were a youngin' in the '80s. So were you into like the Michael Jackson, the
Well,
Police,
you can put myself on the spot here. I used
Purple
to
Rain?
Minnie Riperton.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Minnie Riperton, Loving
Okay.
You.
All
I
right.
used to, that's why my falsetto was so good now.
Right.
I used to wail that song when I was a little kid. In my family, I have five siblings. Yeah, I have 5 siblings.
Wow,
both
do
my
you?
parents. And and they hated me. As a child, I was so obnoxious with that song. But everything from that to, my older brother played bass. He still plays bass. He's 12, 13 years older than me. And me and my younger brother used to sit there and watch him for hours just playing bass, Nirvana and
How much older did you say he was?
He's 13 years older.
Oh, 13
he
years
plays a lot of 70s stuff. And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
just sit there and we were in awe of my brother just jumping around playing the bass.
Huh.
So that was a huge inspiration. But yeah.
So did you just kind of want to be like your older brother, sort of, and that's
think
what ended
so.
up getting you into it?
I think so. What happened with guitar? I was 15, I think, 15 years old. My younger brother, got an electric guitar. He was all like grunge rock, Nirvana.
Yeah.
I really didn't even want to play guitar, but my younger brother got a guitar, so I wanted a guitar. He got electric, so I wanted acoustic. I had my guitar for like 5 years, and I learned one song in those first probably 5 years.
What do you remember what that song was?
Yeah, Local H Copacetic, which is like one chord over and over again.
Yeah.
And I tore that song up in so many bad ways.
But probably good way. Like when I look back at me doing what I was doing like back in the day when I was first starting playing music, I almost have like I'm almost like nostalgic for how I approached it, like without the me and Nate on the previous episode kind of talked about not being formally trained, don't have any like experience with like music theory and that sort of thing, and going to school for it. I had my parents, my dad was a musician, and my older brother was a musician and stuff. So I got a lot of like ear training, I guess, from that. But like there's almost a freshness that comes when you're not trained.
Yeah.
That I kind of missed from being a kid, because I know more now musically, but I feel like I wrote stuff more freely and more kind of punk rock,
Yeah.
if you will. Not actually writing punk music, but
Yep.
like a punk rock approach to songwriting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you remember like the first song you wrote?
I do. It was terrible. It was a song. It was literally a song about me having a conversation with a squirrel. Yeah, I can still remember the lyrics. I can't remember how to play it, and nor would I, even if I could.
Do you remember how old were you?
I was 18, just about to turn 19 the first time I think I wrote a song. Yeah, it was horrible.
Were you playing cover songs before that, like learning cover material, or was it
like in those first 5 years? It was just that one song. Basically, it was Local
over
H.
and over again?
I did take 2 guitar lessons, and I grew up out in the country in Warsaw, New York. So there was one guy out there who was pretty renowned for his guitar playing ability, and he gave me 2 lessons, and I told him all I wanted to learn was I wanted to learn how to play Santeria, and I wanted to learn how to play Fade to Black.
Did you end up learning those?
I learned both of those. I took one lesson each song maybe, and then I just kind of went off on my own. And then of course I learned Stairway and all the classic stuff that people first learn. And I started to learn that I had a knack for raw acoustic music. I just love raw acoustic music.
Yeah, you've really got a sound and kind of a style to your stuff that's like it lends itself very well to like solo acoustic tunes. Like I don't think you need a band behind you. Like I feel like it would be nice to have like maybe some like hand drums behind or something. Maybe a bass player, maybe someone with some strings or something. But I feel like you're good as like an acoustic acoustic kind of singer songwriter. Do you feel that way, or do you really want a band behind you like AC/DC?
No, absolutely not AC/DC. Sorry, anybody who's watching this that likes AC/DC. That's not my jam. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the podcast.
TNT.
I've always enjoyed being a solo act. I was, like I said, in a band for 13 years probably. Me and my best friend from high school, we started off both pretty terrible, and then we both grew together, and we always stuck together.
Were you in the band in high school, or was a friend
Um,
from high school after you
it was
graduated that you started the?
it was probably after graduation that we started playing together. In high school, we really kind of, I mean, we were best friends in high school, so he ended up playing bass, and we just started messing around, and then we just brought people in little by little. The band shifted, obviously, over the years, and
Do you still keep in contact with?
yeah,
those guys?
yep. He's still a good friend of mine. We keep in contact pretty often, so.
It's funny too. I have a bunch of friends from high school, and the people that I made music with, those are the people that I'm still
Yeah.
in contact with. Like
That's
it was very
pretty much it, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the
it's-
people that were like music was so important in high school for everybody, right? You know, everybody kind of clicked based on
yeah,
music.
no kids, right?
Nope,
No
no
kids.
kids.
So
Nope.
so what I've noticed in this generation is that there's almost like back when even right before this generation, I think of kids like from like 2015 and on, there doesn't seem to be an attachment to music like it has been almost for like the last
Yeah.
100 years.
Yeah.
Like, and what I mean by that, it's like a part of your identity, the music that you listen to,
Yeah.
right? Up until like around that time when really Facebook and all those like social media things started to come into play.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's like my daughter loves music, but she doesn't have like a band that she's super into. Like
Yeah.
I remember having like band, posters on my
Oh,
wall, like Poison back in the day. Yeah, I'm dating myself, Poison. Motley Crue and stuff, but like
Yeah.
Nirvana and those bands where you had this like the band that kind of represented your personality, so to
Yeah.
speak. And I feel like that doesn't that's gone away in a sense recently. What was your your band or your
Sublime.
musical? Was it Sublime?
Yeah, hands down, Sublime. I got the sun on my wrist right here. And
That's one of the first songs I learned was What I Got.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a great
Because
tune.
it's just
And
D and G over and
that
over.
self-titled album, I was living in Arizona at the time. My family had moved out there, and I remember just walking the streets of Casa Grande, Arizona, listening with my Discman.
Huh.
Yeah, my Discman.
Discman. Oh,
Yep.
man. Did you have the anti-skip?
Oh
on your
yeah,
Discman?
yeah. It didn't work though because I was always just jamming, walking along, and bouncing around. The anti-skip was garbage.
Right, yeah, it never
But
worked.
At least the one
quite.
I had.
Yeah. No, it didn't work on any of
Yeah,
them.
that's what I
It
figured.
never worked, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but eventually they put them into cars, right? The CD players into cars, and it never skipped in the car for the most part,
Speak
right?
For yourself.
Oh, did it?
Mine did all the
Oh,
time.
maybe I'm just remembering
Maybe it's
it
because
like.
my car was always like a $200 beater. That was just
Well, I was
kind
going to say maybe I'm like remembering it nostalgically. My piece of shit car's playing CDs
Yeah, I feel like-
appropriately, but
I mean, Piece of Shit Car was a great song with a CD.
That's
so,
true.
You know,
that's true. I remember. So when I first moved to Rochester, I moved from Ithaca to Rochester. Right, I had gotten my hands on like a $100 Palm Pilot. Like back in the day, it was like a like a smartphone, but not really a smartphone because it wasn't connected to anything. Super slow. But I remember putting like 5 MP3s on there,
Yeah.
and then attaching it to like one of those cassette adapter things, and being. I think this is where my nerdality, is that a word?
We'll go with it.
My nerdability.
It is now. I like it.
My
Nerdyism?
nerdity. My nerdity. Comment if you know what word I'm looking for. But my nerdity
Your nerdiness?
really like flourished in that moment where I was like, oh, I can get music onto my car from this like digital source, and it's got this little screen, and you could load like half of a music video
Yeah.
on the SD card on it,
Yep.
and be able to play it.
You know, they need to bring that back. They need to bring back cars with cassette players in them.
It's
Retro. You
well,
know, they're all going
my,
back.
My band just released for this most recent release cassettes. We actually did real cassettes, and then we did like USB fake cassettes. They look like cassettes, but they're actually USB drives.
Yeah.
But we made 10 real cassettes because we figured no one's going to have a real good cassette deck. And let me tell you something, Shawn. If you ever want to get cassettes duplicated, first of all, Matt from Loving Cup, the sound guy there,
Yeah.
he's the one that did some duplication for us. He's got a cassette deck that he could do it. And I think he's got a business kind of like restoring and replicating and digitizing like old media.
Okay.
So if you have anything like that, he's good at it. But I got my dad's old cassette deck, like dual deck cassette deck. Didn't work because all the bands in there. Oh my!
Someone just brought the drum set.
That's like when
Interesting chime.
at the end, like the end of a show, like a game show.
Gong.
But yeah, you can't like even if you get an old cassette deck, most of the time they're not going to work, even if they're like brand new because the rubber just gets old and crispy
Yeah.
and stops playing it. But
Well, let me know when you get 8-tracks made. All right.
yeah, 8 tracks. That never came back. But here's the deal, though. I don't think that ever got that big.
8-tracks.
8 tracks, right? I mean, they were in cars.
I think they were before our time. Just they were like just before our time, right?
Yeah, but
So
I
we
feel
wouldn't
like
have
it went
known.
like record to cassette, like compact cassette.
I feel
Maybe
like
I might be
8-tracks were in
imagining
between. I think I don't know. I wasn't alive then, but I feel like I remember. I mean, my older brother, he has collections of everything, so I feel like he's got a lot of 8-tracks probably stored somewhere.
that. Yeah. The only reason I say that is because my dad was super into music and he always had records.
Yeah,
I don't remember
well, records
seeing.
were so much cooler than anything, really.
Were they back then?
They
Though I feel
were.
like maybe they were like old, like they felt old if you got an 8 track, right?
I feel like if 8-tracks hadn't come out and cassettes hadn't come out, people would have been perfectly fine with a record player going straight to CD.
Yeah, like a CD.
Yeah, or Laserdisc.
When you first started recording your stuff, did you have a 4-track recorder?
Oh no! I had
Those were the best.
a big old dinosaur desktop computer, and I had one of the really long neck computer microphones for just talking into.
So when you first started recording, you already had a computer that was able to do it, huh?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, because you were when you were at
I
like
went
18.
and got
right?
a computer
Yeah.
that was able to do it.
Huh.
I don't even know where I came up with that, but and using the program Audacity.
Audacity.
Yeah, way back in the day, and I actually still have a ton of my recordings from back then.
Do you?
Yeah,
Well,
lots.
we're gonna have
of
to
them.
talk after this because I've got something else in the works that's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I actually made some pretty decent recordings, pretty decent mixes on Audacity. I was kind of impressed with myself back then.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying is like back in the day there was this like ingenuity and kind of like lawlessness almost to like making music. So
Yeah.
my dad had a old 4-track Tascam.
Oh yeah.
4-track recorder.
Yeah.
But you could only record, 4 tracks at a time, and then you had to start bouncing them down to one,
Yep.
which would degrade the shit out of them. So they would that one track that you compressed, you're mixing in real time, right?
Yeah.
To have everything mixed, and then once that's mixed down and you start recording on those other tracks, you've lost the ability to adjust those at all. So you had to make sure that one track is clean, and then start recording your other stuff, and then bounce down again if you
Yeah.
wanted more. But it led to some cool stuff. Like I remember recording with my brother and stuff, and recording and then flipping the cassette over so that it would play the same thing we just
Yeah.
played in reverse, and then record something the right way over that reverse. Like it led to some stuff that was like, oh, that's really cool. I feel like now with computers, it tends to be a little more clinical. Like
Yeah, it is so much more clinical now. I mean, software has been upgraded so much, and it's so accessible now. Everything.
Yeah.
I think taking that back to your point about music, how people don't have like their band now. Everything is so accessible. Music is.
Yeah.
I mean, back when we were 18, 19, we had to go out physically and hand out demo discs, and I mean, we had to go nuts just to try to get a show.
I can't even imagine like back in the 70s and stuff, like bands starting out, like you had to, because even photocopiers and stuff like that wasn't big. So you used to have to make like signs by yourself, handmade signs and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
By the hundreds. It's crazy.
Yep.
So like what what got you into writing songs though? So obviously you had people in your family that were musical. Were your parents at all like musical? Or?
I remember my mom singing growing up. My dad's been in his church choir for as long as I can remember. He's a great singer.
Huh.
My dad's family, his brothers and sister, and his parents, they were all very talented musicians. But it was all, it was never anything like they were in a band and they played out or anything like that. Not to my knowledge, anyways. They always had like the church. That was their thing. I was just surrounded by music growing up. There was always records playing through the house. Crosby, Stills and Nash, REO Speedwagon. Just going back to all the beautiful stuff when music was so it just seemed so much more raw and real back then.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's just like.
I almost feel like it's gonna go back. Like there's this like revival that happens. Like you're seeing now. It's funny, like '90s styles, like the wide-legged jeans and that sort of
Yeah.
thing coming back now.
Jenkos.
And I kind of am like hoping for a renaissance of music where it almost goes back to, all right, we're not going to use digital stuff anymore. We're going to use tape, but then we'll eventually introduced the analog version of that back to digital for being able to distribute and whatever.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't just completely be behind the times. But I feel like there's going to be almost a renaissance of that old style of recording, because it brought about such great, like you had, what, I forget who I was watching. It was some interview with a musician, and he's talking about nowadays, like you have to use, you can use Pro Tools. Back in the day, you had to use Pros. Like saying like basically, you have to have musicians that could play live and get it in a track. Like that's who it was. It was Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh yeah. Yep.
He was talking about recording "Saw You with a Smile."
Yeah.
Na, na, na. I forget the name of that song. But he's talking about that no click track to it. So before '95, they didn't record to click tracks. So it was just whatever the drummer timing was, that's what you were playing to. So if you listen to like old AC/DC recordings or all those old recordings, none of them are in perfect time, right? But it lets the song like breathe a little bit, and it makes them feel like that rawness to it. And I almost feel like we're going to get back to that at some point. I mean, I think I hope, or it'll be terrible if that happens.
I hope we do. Honestly, that's my jam right there. That's how I love to play. I like it raw. I like everything just as natural as it can be. That's why, people ask me all the time, why don't you get a looper pedal? Why don't you do all the stuff that everybody's stepping into now? Loopers have become so popular, and the auto harmonizers and all that. I grew up playing around a fire. I was in a band called Around the Fire.
So he practices
did.
what he speaks.
Yeah, like I get up on stage and I don't care what the sound system sounds like. I'm gonna put out what I put out, and that's all I want to do. I don't want to doll it up. I don't want to hide behind it. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. People make it sound great. It's just not for me.
Yeah, and I almost think like I hate to be the begrudging old man. Is that these kids these days? No, because there's great music coming out of using those modern tools to like make stuff that's crazy that you could never create with an analog, acoustic instrument or something like that. And there's really, really amazing stuff that's coming out. And music, things have got to evolve with technology. I mean, that's just the way of the world. But I feel like it's lost it's almost turned into such a commodity, such a product.
Yeah.
To be produced, like pop music, and I think that's like younger people now think of it in that way almost because of this like huge focus on this ultra produced pop music, that their ears are almost so used to that that they can't break out of it, because anything outside of that sounds like it's a mistake.
Yeah.
And if you were to say that to like the Ramones, your vocals are out of key, or out of tune a little bit, like. They wouldn't give a shit.
They would have been like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, like that's the whole point of this whole thing is just to make noise and scream and fuck the system, that sort of thing, right? So I'm hoping it moves in that like kind of rebellious way, because I feel like it's been a few decades of not that.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. Maybe there is a lot of rebellious music out there or something.
I would imagine there's a lot out there. There's a lot of bands that are still absolutely phenomenal live, which you don't find a lot anymore. I feel like, you don't see a lot of, so like Ray LaMontagne, for instance. First time I ever saw him, I was at a mountain jam over at Hunter Mountain. I walked around the corner after this beautiful, crazy storm hit the festival, and I just hear this voice, this just raw, acoustic, beautiful man's voice. And I walk around the corner, and there's Ray LaMontagne sitting on stage, and it was just him with an acoustic guitar. And I was like, man, this is music right here. Like, it made me feel stuff that I hadn't felt about music in a long time, because your music is so produced now.
Yeah.
Like heavily produced.
So let me ask you this. So what, when you go to write a song, how does that come about? And I've got a question that I'm going to start asking every single guest that comes on here, because it is the Songwriters Couch, right? That I'll ask a little bit later. But when because obviously you have some sort of a process to how you're writing. What does that look like? Do you sit down and say, I'm going to write a song right now? Or is it something that like just comes about at a moment? Is it a mix of it? Like, how do you approach your songwriting?
Anytime I've sat down and intentionally tried to write a song, like, hey, I want to write a song right now, I can't do it. It just comes to me usually. Like probably my most popular song, a tune called April's Fool. I tell this story all the time. I wrote that. I woke up one night, it was 3:30 in the morning. I woke up and the tune was in my head. I had the lyrics in my head and I had this beautiful melody in my head. And I wrote that song in about 10 minutes. And it's probably my longest song that I've written. It's like 6.5 minutes long. It's my best performance by far.
And you wrote it at 3 o'clock in the morning, like completed,
in the
right?
morning, completed. Yep, I wrote it, and it has barely changed a smidge over the years. 15 years old.
Do you personally like it?
I love it.
You like playing it?
I love playing that song. That song has all of my emotion. Everything comes out of my heart in that song. Everything comes out of me in that song.
It's amazing. So this that reminds me. I have a song called "It's All Right," and I play it every time I play it. That's such a great song. Everyone loves it. The band loves playing it. It won me a songwriting contest that paid for an EP that I had made back in the day too. Like I'd won it. I personally, it's not my favorite song that I've written because I wrote it in like 10 minutes before leaving for somewhere. I think I was going to the gym to go work out or something, and I sat down and just started playing, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And I wrote it. I mean, it's very storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, as we move along. I got this, but I keep hitting the spot on the microphone that's going to make the noise,
Yeah.
you know, like not the spots that are going to let it, you know, not make noise. But I personally, like, it's not my favorite one to play, I guess.
Yeah.
But here's where the question of the podcast comes along. I asked Nathan this on the last one. Where do you think that the songs, like, where do you think it comes from?
That's a really good question.
So obviously you're feeling things, right? And some of it comes from your personal experience. But what do you think? What do you think inspires those moments to be able to write so freely and so clearly? At that, like a 10-minute song that's one of your favorite, came out easy. Everyone probably loves that song, I bet, right?
Yeah. I feel like, honestly, those songs they just come from a build-up. Like something's building up inside of you over time. And as an artist, you have your outlet, right? Like everything just builds up inside you for so long, and all of a sudden, like, this masterpiece comes out. And it doesn't matter if it's a masterpiece to anybody else. If it's a masterpiece to you, that's all that matters. And it just happens. You know, I have a few songs that are like that have come out of such, some come out of trauma, some come out of love, some come out of anger. It's really interesting how they just come about. But when that one comes out that you just know is like your song, like that's the one that as a small-time local artist, singer-songwriter, and you see people out in the crowd singing along with your music.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
You know, I was at open mic 2-3 weeks ago, and I had two people at open mic at Boulder ask if I could sit down and teach them 2 of my songs. First time I've ever had that happen. I thought I was going to cry. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. You got to be shitting me. You want to learn my music.
Yeah.
I went back to open mic the next week and sat with each one of them and taught them my songs, and I walked in the next week, which was last week. One dude sitting there practicing my song. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And the song he was practicing, I actually won a singer-songwriter competition as well.
Did you?
It was like an 8-week thing where you had to go through, and like each week people got bumped out.
Yeah.
And my song, Hey Friend, Hey
and
Girl.
Surprisingly, the ones that didn't win, they killed them.
Yeah.
They killed the ones that didn't win.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but that's how it went.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The guillotine and everything.
That's it, yeah.
It was done.
It was a stockade, you know. It wasn't meant to be a guillotine, but...
Well, I mean, it was in France, so, you know.
Yeah, you know. Also, it was a guillotine, not a guillotine.
Oh, did I say guillotine?
Yeah, you did, but, you know,
well,
you're not French, so it's all right.
No, I am French.
Oh, well then...
I'm half French.
I got nothing for
so
you,
now
man.
I'm really embarrassed.
I was trying to save you, Patrick.
Yeah, I know. That didn't help.
You.
Your statement about not being French, that didn't help at all.
Guillotine.
So
off with his head.
So,
Did that answer the question, though? I mean,
sort of, yeah. Like I'm wondering, and maybe that's the goal of this podcast is to find out where these songs come from, and if God does exist, if He can come on my podcast and explain where the hell these things are coming from, I'm super interested because they seem to come like magic from places. And what's funny, right before this I was going to say contest. Right before this podcast started, you were playing that song that you had written, and it was jokingly I said, "Oh, that's every every song, right? Because it's
Yeah.
just it's open chords, but capoed, pretty standard. Like any of the open chords played in
Yeah.
any pattern, it's going to be other songs,
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like there's just so many combinations that you can make, but still now people are writing new music, new things from those same, like, what is it, 6 open chords. There's still
Yeah.
new music that's coming out that's like that. You know, Ed Sheeran had that big lawsuit or whatever about the chords, and he played like 6 different songs or 100 different songs or something that all had the same chord progression
Okay.
as Thinking Out Loud, because that's what he was being sued for, right? So it's the same chords, but there's different things. So it's almost like I feel like when I'm playing a new song, or I'm writing a new song, it's almost like I'm remembering it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely, and that it comes back to that point of where the music comes from, and if there's a guide, or how does the music come out?
And I just want to preface this because this is a relatively new podcast. And now this is the second one where I'm talking about God and that sort of thing. This isn't a religious. I'm not religious, but if you
No.
are, that's perfectly fine too. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying
Absolutely.
I feel like that theme has come up a couple of times just because it's so ethereal. Like I don't know where that inspiration actually comes from.
Well, you
So
can
sorry to
look
cut
at the
you off, but-
guitars. You can watch somebody play, and you can hear songs that sound so similar because of those, the same 4 chords, right? G, D, A, C, whatever. People play the same stuff over and over again. They can play them in the exact same timing, just slightly different picking, and it's because the songs aren't coming from here; they're coming from here.
Right.
And we all have our own version of God, and that's where the music comes from, whether it's standard religion or not. It's. You can take the same 4 chords, and you're going to play them differently than I'm going to. You're going to write something differently than I'm going to. You're going to pick your timing's going to be a little bit different.
Do you feel like you feel the same way, like you're remembering or you're recalling the song versus you creating it? Or do you feel like you're making the song? Because when the songs that I've written, like I said, I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And it feels like I'm simply remembering something that I've heard. And then those same songs, when you play them for other people, it's almost like when it's a good song, it's almost like they remember it too.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It absolutely does.
Even if it's some off, like, 'cause some of the stuff I do it's not standard chords. It would be very difficult to say, oh yes, someone else has done that exact thing before.
Yeah.
But people, like singing along to your songs. I've played a song once and had people singing along to it by like the 3rd chorus of the song as if they knew it already.
Yeah.
And that's amazing because it's confusing to me. It's confusing as to why that would be the case, So what do you think that it's something that is like like you're just recalling your preference, like your preferences or something? Like it's just because everyone has heard the same American music or pop music or whatever, and so it ends up being very similar? Or do you think it's actually because, I mean, look at like Beethoven and Mozart and all that stuff. You listen to that stuff and it's got a direction to it that you can almost anticipate.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's always been, it's the beauty and the simplicity of the music. People connect over the simplicity of music. They're going to sit down and, you can catch a tune if it's the same 4 basic chords. Look at the most famous bands in history. So many of the most famous bands in history. You got bands like, you brought up AC/DC a couple of times. They're famous for what, like 3 chords. Every song is like the same 3 chords.
Yeah. Well, it's surprisingly not like they tapped into something, AC/DC in particular. There's so much energy in their music, and it like you almost don't have a choice other than to like start bouncing your head to it. And I don't know.
That's where the simplicity lies, though, because you just naturally connect with it. And then you got bands like Rush that are so complex. Like you're not going to listen to a Rush song and by the second verse be singing along with it.
That's true.
So, even bands like Zeppelin, same thing. They were so intricate and so incredible at writing. You know, it's almost like, I mean, they have a sound where you hear Rush come on the radio, you know it's Rush.
Yeah.
You hear Zeppelin come on, you know it's a Zeppelin song. But you hear AC/DC come on, and you know it's an AC/DC song.
Yeah.
Because of their energy.
Do you feel like you have a style to your writing? Like, do you think if someone were to like hear, let's say they were a fan of one of your songs, do you think if they heard another song just randomly, didn't know it was you, that they could say this is Shawn Thompson's?
I
music?
can't answer that. And when I had my album recorded, it was mixed in Byron, and then I got sent off to Air Show Studio in Colorado. And when I got my master's back, I asked the woman I was speaking to at the studio, I said, I've never been able to put my music into a genre. Like, I don't know what to call my music. And I said, and they've done, I mean, they did the Grateful Dead's collective works, I believe. They've done some wild, crazy stuff with music there. And I asked her, I said, what genre would you put my music in? I can't put it in anything. And she says, well, she goes, you've got kind of your own sound. She's like, you've got a little Jason Mraz, you've got a little Jack Johnson. She says, but I can't put your music in a genre. And she goes, and don't take that as a bad thing because you have your own sound, and I really don't know what it is. And I've always struggled to. People ask me that all the time.
Yeah,
what kind of music do
genre.
you play? I'm like, I don't know what kind of music I play. I play whatever comes out. My music has such a variety of sounds, I feel like. And maybe if people watching this or listening to this can, if they hear my music someday when I finally put it out there.
Yeah, I think what's funny about that, I don't think you have to worry about sounding like originality. I think if you write music or you play other people's music, it comes out naturally like who you are.
Yeah.
And so I think you end up being original even if you're not trying to be original.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so there's a natural sound built in. So like when Malcolm Young, that's his name, right? Guitar player from AC/DC.
Oh, I don't know. Am I allowed to say this? I'm not an AC/DC.
Yeah. starts writing songs. I think he writes it from his point of view, right? So, and maybe that's just his inclination to do certain things that he does technically, or maybe that's just what he's feeling at the time. And I think as you get older too, you start to pull in some technical, prowess too, I guess you could say, and fool around with technicalities of what you're doing, and your songs get better and better. But I think it you can't help but sound like you.
Yeah.
Too, which is strange, even if you're covering something,
Yeah, it's like the originality comes out in your own energy, and I think where people get stuck is they try so hard, like they get so hooked on. They're playing a cover, right? Because they want to be known. They want people to connect with them, and they try to play it like the person who wrote the song instead of making it their own. And that's what I've gotten compliments on that for years now. Is I take songs that other people have written, and I just put my own little twist on them. Because when I'm covering Billie Jean, I don't want to sound like Michael Jackson, nor can I, even if I wanted to.
I think it's very difficult to sound like Michael Jackson. I cover some Michael Jackson too. It's like impossible.
It's impossible, and I wouldn't want to even if I could. You want to take, and I kind of mentor a lot of people at open mic. I love taking people that are there for their first time, and just sitting down and talking with them. Because I remember my first open mic, and it was terrifying. I remember my first 100 open mics, and they were all terrifying. And I said, you just be you. Like, don't try to be the people you're covering. And if you're playing your own original music, nobody knows if you screw up. Just do your thing. And you just have fun and do your thing. And just be you. Be as original as you can be. And don't try to go overboard with it. Just feel it.
That's so funny. I learned that way too late, that especially if you're playing original music, for the most part, if you're playing to people that don't know your original music, they don't know what the next verse lyrics are.
Yeah.
So if you miss a lyric, they're not going to notice that's what you did because they don't know the song, So let me ask you this: what's your two favorite songs that you've written that one you love to play? Because performing is different, right?
Yeah.
Like I love to play like faster, funky songs.
Yep.
Just because it's fun to play. I get all into it. And then what is your most emotional connection to a song that you got? where you love to play it because it means something, you know?
I honestly think it's really a tie between two songs. There's April's Fool and Beautiful Things. There's another song called Hummingbird that I wrote years ago. That was wrote for a very special reason.
Are these in distribution where someone can download it?
No, they're not. They're not.
All right, we're going to change that.
Yeah, Let me just say this. I need to change that.
We're going to change that. So Shawn's songs, by the time this episode gets released, will either be already in distribution or a week later it'll be.
That would be awesome. I have the files. I think. I don't know.
do it.
I've never known how to put them on anything. I should learn because I
got
recorded back in 2017. So
we'll get it. We'll get it out there into the world, and then you guys can
great.
download it and let him know what you think.
That'd be awesome.
Be careful about that because they might say this is shit.
I know, right? Yeah. I'm all right with that. They can
How do you
say
feel?
whatever they want.
How do you feel about
care.
judgment of your songs? Do you feel like it's a personal attack on you?
I used
if
to.
people don't like it.
I used to. I've done a lot of work now, and I don't care.
What kind of work? Like personal spiritual
inner work? Yep.
Jeez.
Spiritual work, and I literally just don't. I play for me, and I think that's why it comes out so authentic and so powerful, because I'm up there for me. You know, I go to open mic sometimes, and I'm like,
that's pretty selfish, Shawn.
I know, isn't it though? And I love it.
I'll remain.
That's
the only reason. I think that's the only reason any musician really gets up there and plays, right? Because if it was purely for the enjoyment of the audience, could you imagine yourself getting up there and doing that every night?
No, it starts off as. I mean, I think it starts off as like, hey, I want to perform and I want to be seen. I want to feel like I'm something. And then, you know, when you get up there, you can tell when somebody's up there seeking validation versus they're just up there because they need to let go. They need to release something. You know, it's so much different when people are up there and they're just like, you know, love me, clap for me, you know, you have to like my music. And if you don't, I'm going to go home and cry. That's how I used to be. I hated leaving shows. When people wouldn't show up or if people weren't engaged in my shows, I would go home and I would be depressed for hours.
Huh.
And I finally realized one day that I wasn't playing for me. I wasn't doing it for me.
I watched something recently, and it was about, again, I'm going to bring up comedy. Again, this feels like a repeat.
I have no sense of humor. So
of some of this last show. But comedy, there was an interview I watched with a comedian, and he was talking about bombing, right? Because even as a musician, you get up there, and sometimes it's like no one's paying attention. They're all eating. You know, they're drunk, not paying attention to what they're doing.
You meant like blowing things up.
No.
This isn't funny, man.
Yeah, no, but like you get up there and they do their comedy, and at some point you realize, oh, no one cares. Like after this moment, when that couple that's sitting at the table isn't paying attention to what you're doing, isn't laughing at what you're doing, isn't engaging with your music, they're not going to remember you at all. But you'll sit there for the next month and think about that couple sitting there that wasn't paying attention to you at all, not listening to what, and like ruminate on this thing the whole time, you know? It's confusing why that bothers creatives, but it bothers me too. Like I'll sit there, if I'm in a room of people and I'm playing something, everyone's getting into it, and there's this one person sitting there they're on their phone, and they may be just like in a fight with their boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, you know, like doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's like, why aren't you listening to, you know?
You know what's interesting about that though is I just played a benefit show for someone who's going through some cancer treatment this past weekend, and it was one of those situations where even when people are standing there watching you, like there's no reaction really, and I still have this inner conflict with that. You know, with myself, where it's like, do these people really even care that I'm up here? And the interesting thing is that couple that the comedian's talking about, that couple sitting there, they might go home and talk about how funny he was or how funny she was or how great this person was.
Yeah, they might have loved it.
Yeah, they might have loved it. And then like 2 weeks later, they see you out. And I've had this happen. They see you out 2 weeks later and they're like, oh yeah, I saw you play it. And I'm like, my brain's going, yeah, why the fuck weren't you clapping for me? I thought you were sleeping. But they're like, yeah, you were great. It was a great show and can't wait to see you again. And I'm like
yeah, it's almost like...
I've been depressed for 2 weeks over you guys. Thanks.
I had a conversation a long time ago on a previous podcast, so I've done this a bit before. Sorry, I'm just lifting. That was my old man as I was lifting up the microphone. About it's almost like a love affair,
Yeah.
right? But not just with your bandmates. Like if you're in a band, it's definitely a relationship with everyone in the band, right? You're having like emotional interactions as you're up on stage, right?
Yeah.
With like the bass player, the drummer, et cetera, and you go on. But there's also an emotional relationship between you and the audience, right? That's fleeting.
Yeah.
It's like a one night stand, right?
Yeah.
Like where you go out there and you're like, why did this one night stand not? Why didn't this become a relationship? Let's say,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I think that's where it comes from. It's almost like I think maybe we need to all go to therapy as musicians, huh?
Oh, we definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. we absolutely do.
Because I don't think it's seeking validation, but it's like I want an emotional connection to the people in the audience, and if they're not having that, it throws me off.
It's like we feel invalidated.
Well, not invalidated. It's almost like I want to show you this wonderful world of what this song is about,
Yeah.
but you didn't even look at it.
And they'll never see it from the way
Yeah.
that we wrote it.
Yeah.
They'll never understand.
Because maybe it doesn't make any impact on
Yeah.
them, you know?
They might be listening to it and they're just like, oh, this is another love song. Or this is, but inside us, we're like burning while we're playing it.
And I wonder if that's what makes great music, though, is because you continually strive to deliver that to people,
Yeah.
to give them that emotional connection with an experience of your song, an experience that you had in your life. You took all this time to write music about and lyrics about and all this stuff, and you want to display that for people, but also you want to connect with people with it, you know?
Yeah. It's the connection is so strange the way people connect to music. I lied about my music not being out there. I believe I have some on SoundCloud. I have the unmastered. I have the unmastered. I did lie. I forget about SoundCloud. All right.
I just want to
Completely.
liar now.
Yeah.
No, I'm just-
So after I put my stuff on SoundCloud, it was before it got mastered. It was just the mixed versions. I had somebody emailed me about, I believe it was my song "Beautiful Things," and someone sent me a message through SoundCloud or however that worked back then, 6 years ago. And she told me that she had been listening to my song all day at work on repeat because she was in a really bad place and she just needed to hear my song. She's like, I heard it once and I just put it on repeat and I just want to thank you for writing that song. And I was like, I don't know who this person is, where they are, what they look like. I know nothing about them. And they took the time to write me and let me know that my song that changed my life writing it turned their whole day around.
I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, but it didn't gong like yours. I knew what I was doing.
But that is probably the most amazing feeling in the world when someone's like, I've been listening to your music, because I've gotten that a couple of times. I'll be honest, not very often do people say. Usually it's that my dog barking.
There must be a marauder.
But to have someone say like, "Oh, I've been listening to your music," or "I have a favorite song of yours that I've been listening to for so long," like it amazes me that, and maybe that's what we're searching for, you know, as songwriters, we're searching for like an actual connection, like, oh, that person feels the same way I felt,
Yeah.
you know, from that situation.
Yeah.
And we're looking for like closeness with other people and other human beings. And I feel like that's where, you know, there's such a religious thing to music.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Which is what I was talking about before, like where analog music, it's so close to your soul. And when you're writing electronic music, it tends to be like you're on a computer, does this sound perfect, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas like acoustic music, you're writing it and you're performing it in a setting where other human beings are interacting with it. And I think that like we're all looking for connection in that. So let's do this. I'm going to call it here because this got real deep real quick.
Yeah.
Do you have a song that you want to perform?
Yeah. I mean, I like all my songs. But
So let's have Shawn perform a song. Is the dog okay? Is she dead up there? Or is she?
Amazon was dropping you off something.
Oh, Amazon. Okay. So let's go back to this camera real quick. I want to say, to anyone watching right now, let's have you subscribe. There's probably a subscribe button. Where is it?
somewhere over
On that
there.
side.
I think it's by his knee.
Let's have you like the video, and let's put a little comment down there like, hey, YouTube, I'd like to see more of this. And let's have you play a little song for us.
I can do that.
You good with that?
Yeah.
We'll end it there. Love you, Shawn.
Love you as well, Patrick.
Yeah. I met you relatively recently, last few months.
Yeah.
I don't say I love you, which is random abandonment.
Yeah.
But
Also, it was way
you're a
longer
good
than
dude.
a few months ago, but we won't
go
tell people
follow
that.
Shawn Thompson. Do you have like Instagrams, all that sort of stuff?
Oh, I have like 7 Instagram. But I don't
Just
have
give-
one just for.
What
my
are you doing
music.
right now? What do you got right now?
So if you want to check out some of my music, on Facebook, I have a page called Guy with a Guitar.
Oh.
Yeah. You'll know it's me because it's this guy that looks like me. And as far as
Or it could be what's the guy you mentioned before? Not John Mayer. Is it John Mayer or you?
I didn't mention John Mayer,
Oh.
but we can go with that.
Not John Mayer.
Jason Mraz,
Oh, Jason.
Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson.
Oddly, I don't know. I've never seen it. People have told me that I look like Jack Johnson before, ever since he got a beard, I guess, or since he grew a beard.
Did he grow a beard?
Yeah.
Jack Johnson?
Yeah. I've been told that a number of times. I
She's saying
guess I
you
don't
look like Jack Johnson.
I'll take it, I guess. I mean, I love
Much
his
better
music.
guitar player, though.
I do cover a lot of Jack Johnson. So, Jack Johnson was a huge inspiration.
All right, so what is this song that you're going to play?
Well, I'm
I
going to
know,
play...
and I want to say thank you to Shawn because it's been a long day for him. Tiring, probably.
a little bit,
Lots of work today.
but this is the best
So
way
thank
to
you
end
for
it, man.
coming on. Yeah, I know.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. I've been drinking whiskey and hitting the microphone. And
Yeah.
so
You haven't
we're
even
here.
drank that much whiskey. You better
Yeah, I
slow
know.
down. You knock your mic right off the stand there.
So what's the song about? And then let's hear it.
So this is actually the title track to the album called Beautiful Things. The song is obviously called Beautiful Things. I wrote this song. I had a big old farmhouse out in the country. No neighbors on either side of me for over a mile. Nothing but cornfields and a driveway. And every morning I would sit outside. This was right after my divorce. I wrote a bunch of stuff, obviously, after my divorce. That tends to happen. But I had fallen pretty hard for this girl. And we were kind of on our way out, and I was sitting outside one morning, drinking a cup of coffee, and there was a bunch of birds playing in this mud puddle in my driveway. I've always felt this weird connection with birds. I love birds, and this song just kind of came out. Yeah, it's another one of those ones I wrote pretty quickly, and it hasn't changed much, other than me forgetting how to play it a few times over the years. But this album, the whole album, was a tough album to play for a while, but yeah, that's what it is about. So,
All right. Well, Shawn Thompson, thank you for coming on, man. I'll have you on again later. Hopefully this podcast takes off and we have a million more of these.
Oh, it will.
And I appreciate
I
it, brother.
trust in that, man.
And if you have massage needs and you want a beautiful man to massage you, let him know. And if you wanted to massage you with his music,
Legally.
he can do that as well. So let's go for it.
Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you. Oh, I forgot
Hold on.
to turn the
Yeah,
mic.
Shawn,
Pause.
if you can. Yeah,
I'm terrible at
I'm
this.
making hand gestures here in the background. If you could just turn that just in between your voice and your guitar so we can hear your
I don't
guitar.
want to break your mic stand here.
Oh, you're good. I've been slamming my microphones here all day.
I don't know how to do music, so
There you go.
Is that-
That's perfect.
is that right there?
Perfect.
Good.
Yeah.
Say what? Good. We good? All right, let's try that again.
All right.
Take 2. Oh, also, so my album, really quick, Beautiful Things, 6 songs on the EP. I did all live recordings in Mockingbird Studio. Sat down at each take, live take. Beautiful, beautiful sound to it. The mixing was great. Yeah, it was a really fun time. So that's how I like to play my music.
Download.
Do it.
I woke up early to watch the rain falling nice and slow. I brew a nice cup of coffee and turned on the radio. I'm sitting on my porch, oh, watching all the birds as they sing and play. But then the rain gets just a little bit harder and they all fly away. And if I could have stopped the storm, I would have made the sun come out from behind those gray pillows. But the grass needs rain like the heart needs pain, and it's a beautiful mess for sure. Little bird, oh, why'd you fly away? The storms never last too long out here. Maybe tomorrow you could stay. No, and together we could watch the rain and sing. And it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful thing. Looking at the skies, the moon climbs high and the sun goes down. I pour a glass of wine and I hear you sing, but you're nowhere to be found. The clouds give way to the warm breeze. Oh baby, it feels like your hand on my neck. With every single shooting star I close my eyes and hope it's not goodbye. Little bird, oh, why'd you fly away? The storms never last too long out here. Maybe tomorrow you could stay. No, and together we could watch the rain and sing. And it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful thing, yeah, yeah. A beautiful thing, yeah, yeah. Little bird, oh, why'd you fly away? The storms never last too long out here. Maybe tomorrow you could stay. No, and together we could watch the rain and sing. And it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful thing.
How about a round of applause for Shawn Thompson? Can we get a round of applause? Everyone in
Hey,
all the
thanks.
production crew.
Thanks, production.
Yeah. Hey, Shawn.
Patrick, my brother. Where'd yours go?
My drink has been drunk. Means the end of the episode.
Surprise, surprise.
But Shawn, thank you for coming on. I'm gonna have have to ask you this.
Yeah.
Come on in a later episode too. I'm hoping season 4
Okay.
of this podcast you'll be on when it's high production, millions of dollars coming in, all sorts of weird cameras. You're like, what is that camera? Oh, it's like a virtual
It's just floating in
reality.
front of
Yeah,
us.
it's just
Yeah,
like
it's
on a like a George Jetson.
We'll be robots by then, so it's all good.
Yeah, we'll all be robots. So I'll be a robot, you'll be a robot, and we'll still be doing this podcast.
Yeah, man.
So let's say this. If you're a songwriter and you're feeling like, I don't feel like I'm established enough to be on this, don't fret. Reach out to me. We'll see how you're doing. I'll have you on the show, okay?
Yeah.
We've got some amazing guests coming up, right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Can I share something real quick?
Sure.
If you're a musician who's struggling to just be you, feel free to reach out to me as well.
No. Well, Shawn Thompson, Instagram handle. You got one of those? Get a little,
let's
get
go.
a little closer. Let's give him.
Let's go with Shawn T. Wild, SHAWN, the correct way to spell Shawn.
Oh my!
That's gonna start some fights right there. SHAWNTWILD.
I know a few Shawns that beg to differ.
Yeah, let's do this.
Well, we'll have a live boxing ring
I'm game.
fight between Shawns.
I'll lose, but I'm game.
Well, we'll train you.
What are we talking like boxing stuff up? Or
I'll just
like
give you
punching
tons
each
of
other?
steroids and stuff and get
I
you.
can box stuff up. Like, I worked at a pizzeria for 12 years, man.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll
well,
make some-
that's a little different than. But
Many
we'll
months
get
ago.
Shawn on a future episode. Thank you guys for anyone that's listening, watching, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
If you want to see something, please send us a message or comment or whatever of more of what you'd like to see. If you want to see like how a song gets written, I'm kind of thinking about episodes where we actually live write a song. So if you're interested in that sort of thing,
Sounds terrifying.
reach out. Yeah, that's the whole point, right? And thank you to everyone who's listening. And I can't wait to show you who we got on the episode for next week. It's unbelievable.
No way to make me feel like shit, Patrick.
No, I mean, I was in anticipation of today,
He's like,
too.
I can't wait to get this guy out
You
of here.
know?
Wait till next week. No, I appreciate it.
No,
I
no,
really
but
do. I do.
but
Yeah.
Shawn,
What's go? Oh, yeah, gong.
there's microphones in the way, glasses
Glasses in the
But
way.
but thank you, Shawn. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you, Ali, for doing the switching here, and thank you to all the production crew back there, everyone that's getting paid like pennies
Yeah.
to do this. It's
I'm not
amazing what they're
giving
doing.
them money, so it's all
I mean, you know, fuck them. They're just kind of like lackeys or whatever. But-
Every single
no,
one
I
of
love
you
them.
gets a
I
free
love.
massage.
I love
Every
them.
one of you
I'm
guys
just
there gets a
joking.
free
I'm joking.
massage.
I love every single one of you guys out there. But thank you for watching, and tune in next week because you're not going to believe who we have on. Shawn, until next time, yeah?
Absolutely.
Season
Appreciate you,
3.
brother.
Season 3. And thank you guys. Subscribe, like, etc., etc.